Hey guys, it's me, Animation Girl. So, I hope you enjoyed my how to sketch hands tutorial, even though it was a bit lengthy. Thinking about that and thinking about it was just a sketching process, I decided I would go back in and do the specific poses, certain ones in different videos, and go from the sketch to the refining phase. So that's what this is, of just the side hand view pose. So let's get started into it, and I'll add more detail than I did in the sketch video, and hopefully we'll have a really good tutorial by the time this is done. All right, let's go. Okay, so this is the side view that I decided to start with, mainly because I like this view. I also think that it's a more challenging view to draw in terms of you know what I mean. Just it's just harder. It's just harder to draw side views of hands. So um, let me just kind of cover that up a bit. Okay. So if you watched or if you haven't watched my other tutorial video, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to start out the same way. So sketching, just sketching from reference. Like obviously, if I had a full drawing, I probably would have a wrist to start with. However, sketching from reference is a little bit harder to start from like a floating wrist. But again, the wrist is a rectangle shape, right? If you want to make it a cylinder, like so, it'll give you more of the 3D spatial aspect. Okay, then going into the palm here, that's where I like to get my, in this instance, it would be a parallelogram shape based upon the angles of these two lines. So we block that in here. And these are just the basic shapes. They don't have to be extremely perfect because we're going to refine this later. Okay, then you have the thumb joint here. There you go. Okay. And then when you're trying to make sure you get your proportions down, this is what you want to think about. You've got the tip of this thumb is the same length of to the first knuckle on the pointer finger. That is showing distance and spatial distance because the thumb is closer to the camera than obviously the pointer finger is, creating the equality between them. Whereas, I mean, my nails are really short right now, but this is my first knuckle, this is my thumb. Usually they're not the same length, so that's, you're seeing spatial distance. So, in tackling this portion, you can do it two ways. You can go through and kind of block out where the knuckle would be, or you could do it the way that I would do it, which is just to put in the entire thumb curve, like so. And that's probably thicker than I would stylistically draw my hands, so I'm going to thin that out a bit. Okay. All right. Also keep in mind that this parallelogram shape here, it looks like the spatial distance is wider than the reference photo. That's because I haven't really roughed in what I would consider the meat or the flesh of the palm, which would go in like that. That's something that I would do during the refining process, just kind of giving you guys a view here so you can see how that changes things. Okay, so now onto the pointer finger. All right, and keep in mind in this image, you see the middle finger just a little bit right here, but majority of it is the pointer finger. So we've got to make sure we leave just a tad bit of room for that to come through. So I'm not going to start right back at this tip. I'm going to start here and try to get the angle correct. And then this is something that I would block into the first rectangle for the first joint. So again, it's supposed to be about the same height as your thumb here. I didn't add a nail to my thumb. If I did, kind of like there's one in the photo. It's just a little rectangle with a rounded tip, like that. That kind of helps give me that knuckle height here. Okay. All right. Then, after that rectangle, the direction changes a little bit. So angle it the other way. And now I'm not going to stop at the second knuckle. I'm just going to keep going all the way to the tip, since they are in the same relation. And then curve for the tip of the finger. Especially when you see the side of fingers, it's always going to have that kind of curved shape. Will make it look like a finger. And then again, if you want to add the nail, you can. Again, I usually don't sketch the nails or put the nails in the sketch process, but since I'm here, this is easier. And then making the nail a little bit more realistic. If you add a curve, slight curve to the top, and then close the tip, that's going to make it kind of pop out, stand out, be more 3D, and look more like a real nail. Okay. Then we're going to come in and do the back finger, which I will go ahead and just kind of make it a little darker color, differentiate it a little bit. So when you come into the back, obviously, you know, the finger's going more like that, okay, behind it. So we're not seeing the whole thing. So this is where you would start at the tip of your parallelogram, the palm of the hand, and angle it so that it starts to go behind the first finger you drew. So you just want to see just a little, just peekaboo right there. Now the first knuckle's hidden right behind this pointer finger first knuckle, so we don't have to worry about it. So we're just going to pop out at about the middle of the pointer finger. It's kind of where it is right here. And this is just a slight bend in the knuckle, just a very slight. You can choose to ignore it or you can choose to put it in. It just depends on how you do things stylistically. I'm going to go ahead and put it in today. So this is my second knuckle joint here. And then there's my rounded tip. And actually, I'm going to make that a little bit longer. I think I might have made it just a little too short. Because it is we got to keep in mind, this is the middle finger, and the middle finger's the longest. Even though we've got some spatial distance going on, it's going to look shorter from the pointer finger, but it is longer. And then put that rectangle back in. Okay, again, if you want to put in the nail, just do a curve at the top. Leave that straight line there, and then just close the end of it past the tip. Okay, so now we've got 2 out of the 4 fingers, plus the top. Not bad. So I'm going to change the color again. Let's just go to purple here. All right. So we have the ring finger, which follows this palm line here that we already have kind of laid in with the parallelogram. The difference is we can't see the palm knuckle anymore. You can only see the first knuckle, and then the second knuckle is hidden by the thumb. But the first knuckle is important because that's where the bend is, so that's really all you need. So go to where you put in your palm line, knuckle line here, and then just start coming out from that and drawing a really short rectangle because we can't see much of that finger, right? And then the direction is almost straight across. Put that bend in that knuckle and start drawing your second rectangle. Now, I think I've done my first rectangle a little too short because I think that the first rectangle would be about here in my drawing. So I'm going to do that again. It is a-okay to erase and start over as you need to. I would be lying if I said I never erased. There's a reason why I don't draw on pen. Okay, and then coming more across. There we go. And then a little bit of the tip shows past the thumb, which if you were to make it up, I'm guessing this is about where the second knuckle is, somewhere in here. And then the tip is going to be like that. So looking at mine, kind of the same thing, trying to get that to come through in a way that makes sense. And I still feel like mine's not completely size accurate. There we go. Smooth that up a little bit. For me. So there we go. And we've got this flow going on. Yeah, you can't see that too well. We've got this going on with the fingers. Okay. It's kind of waterfalling here. And the ring finger, although shorter than the middle finger, is longer because it's in this image, especially because obviously it is bent all the way down. All right, and last but not least, the pinky. Now the pinky is the most hidden. Generally, a lot of times, unless you're looking at the hand from this angle, the pinky is going to be the most hidden. It also, you know, we kind of can't see most of the reference for the knuckles, things like that. And a lot of times, in most poses, the pinky likes to be right next to the ring finger. It's just the way hands go. So we're going to just block in kind of a curve here. This is where the pinky knuckle is, I'm pretty sure, based on the image. And then I'm going to give it, instead of just doing rectangles, I'm going to try to give it a little finger shape. Finger shape, which is a weird thing to say, but if you were just doing a straight finger, you know, it's kind of like this. Basic, very, very basic butter knife kind of shape. If you're to lay in the knuckle details, you're going to get something that looks like this. Okay, this is just basic. I mean, obviously that doesn't look like a finger. Nails. Obviously that doesn't look like the best finger on size, you know, on the planet, but I'm just giving you the idea that basic curves within the finger that make it look more finger-like when you refine it. So because there's very little of the pinky, I was just going to add in a little kind of finger curve detail. And then I think the second knuckle for the pinky tip is about here, which is why we see so little. So in the thumb here, we're just going to kind of guesstimate there that that's the nail. The other thing too, and I didn't do it on the ring finger, which I should have done, is that the nails from this angle, we're seeing the nails from the inside. So, especially with this ring finger, you can see the tip from that angle. And so this nail, this was bad of me, I should have cut that. Sorry guys. The nail curves. So if I do just the tip, here's the tip without the nail, there's the finger. The nail comes off kind of like these are first ones we're doing. It comes off at a curve, but then you're going to have this second curve that you're going to draw something like that, which gives the nail the 3D effect that you're now seeing the inside of the nail, not just the outside of the nail. Because at this angle, you know, we're kind of underneath looking up. Okay. And then when we do the pinky, does it have kind of the same thing? I've got the curve in there, but we'd have to do like a top tip to kind of make that illusion. And it's not important right now. We'll go back in and refine it, make it look more realistic. But there you go. So there's the basic sketch for this reference hand here. Not bad, guys. If you followed along and you've got something somewhat like this, refining this is going to be super easy, or it should be pretty good, pretty close, because this is the basic. You know, this is the bread and butter. This is your skeleton. At this point, it just becomes your style, adding your style to it and making it yours. So I'm going to go in with, usually like to use a brown. So I don't need the reference anymore necessarily. I usually would just go in and start refining, like I said, with my own style, things like that. You continue to use the reference if you really are trying to make your hand look like this hand, if that makes sense. Of course that makes sense. But I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to start refining some things the way that I would. Okay, so I'm going to start with the pointer finger and kind of work my way down. It just is the logic that happens in my brain when I work. So I'm going to start with the finger, not the nail, mainly because the nails you can always adjust based on how you made your fingers, how you drew your fingers. Drawing the nail first and then going into the fingers doesn't make as much sense, because if you don't like where your finger placement is and stuff like that, it's all gone from the nail to the finger as opposed to finger to nail. I guess you could just think about it like the nails are attached to the finger, so why would you draw the nails first? It's just that kind of thing. So, and then the tip, I like to make sure it gets a nice curve in there. Again, I think that makes the finger look more like a finger when you've got that nice curve to the tip. And then, you know, just going along my skeleton, blocking down the main area. And then at the knuckle, I'm going to round out the back end, because obviously we're not jagged shapes. We've got nice muscle tissue and things, cartilage that rounds it out, makes it look all nice and sweet. So I'm going to round it out. And then same thing on the inside, I'm going to round it out in the opposite. Well, it's the same direction actually, but it's going to look more like a bend in than a bend out, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's the pointer finger. Okay, because we've got this middle finger right next to it, I'm just going to go ahead and block that in as well. It is just a straight line, nothing too complicated. Ta-da. Okay, this is where you can get fancy or unfancy. It's all up to you. The palm connecting knuckles here. You can accentuate them or not accentuate them based upon what you like to do stylistically. I would definitely make a point of change my color. You know, doing this middle knuckle, since it is the outside of the hand and it's going to be the most prominent to the shape. Okay, and it's just like a little bump, a little triangle, little hill, if you will. The more you accent it, the more prominent the knuckle will be, the more that changes kind of what your hand is. If it's like a super muscular, knuckly guy who's like giving the best fist punch ever, probably you want to have more knuckles rather than less knuckles. But since I'm doing a dainty female hand, a nice little knuckle hill is just fine. Okay, and then again, the back of the palm, it's just that straight line down. Now, here's what I'm saying. You can add the second knuckle for the pointer finger if you want to. Another small hill. Or you can leave it without. Adding the knuckle in is going to make it look more realistic. Leaving the knuckle out might give you a more cartoony illustration style. So, like I said, it just depends on what you as an artist want to do. Okay, and then I'm just going to put a nice curve in here, soft curve to connect the palm and the wrist together. Again, no matter how you bend your wrist, drawing it with a soft curve makes it look more natural as opposed to drawing it with a jagged and sharp, harsh connection. Okay, so far so good. All right, now since I've got my pointer finger looking in a way that I like, I can come in and kind of refine that nail. All right, again, you want to make your top curve just a little bit. It gives it more of a 3D effect, makes it feel more like it's, you know, growing off the nail. All right, and then we're going to put in a U shape here with a flat edge, you know, kind of, you know, that kind of U, not like that kind of U. Okay, so we want a U, more like a staple, I guess, half a staple. That gives the realism that the nail bed, it's sitting into the nail bed and into the finger. And then the tips of the nails all depend on what kind of tips you want to do. Like, I mean, we could do claw tips, like, you know, with a point, like a triangle point like that. Get some really pointy, crazy tips going in there. Or we could do square tips, which are more like what I've got in the photo. Excuse me. And just connect it like that. And then you kind of got like a nice natural square nail. How far this, let me show you. How far this curve here pops off of the finger is up to you. Obviously, this changes as much as people change. So, for example, I could move this, you know, closer in, and it'd look a little different than that, you know, thicker, thinner. Oh, actually, now that I did that, I kind of like it. Let me do it again. Let me repeat that. So it just depends on how thick you want the nail to be or how thin you want the nail to be on that level. Okay. All right, now I'm going to move on to the middle finger again as my second choice, hidden back here. And I'm going to start with the first knuckle, or second segment actually, because the first segment's kind of, we covered that down there. So get this portion on the angle. And then the second portion angle. And like I said, don't worry about the nails. You can always come back to the nails and embed them into the finger that you've already drawn. Okay, I'm giving it a slight bump here for where the joint hits. The knuckles slightly bent. And then I'm doing the fingertip, giving it that nice curve so that people believe it's a finger. I'm also putting in another slight curve at the joint and then coming back out with another slight curve the opposite way to give belief that the finger has some meat on it, some cushion. I took off my sketch lines so hopefully you could kind of see what I'm talking about better. So this way, then this way, then back that way again. So like I said before, when I went, this is a finger, and that looks really horrible, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, or I should even go, that's a finger. That looks really terrible, but that is the basic idea behind a finger, the finger shapes that you're going to refine and make look more realistic. Okay. Now I can go in and refine the nail now that I have my finger laid in. And just looking at the reference, we're kind of at the low angle, so we're seeing more meaty flesh of the finger covering up what we're seeing at the nail. So the sketch nail that I put on here isn't quite exact, showing it in that manner. The nail's too much nail showing. So if we're trying to do it more like the image, I'm going to bring that lower. Just a slight curve difference. See that? How much lower that is? Just a slight curve difference from the finger. And then the nail is going to curve down that way. Back into the fingertip. Okay, there we go. Now that's the proper direction for the nail. And like I said, the nail sketch placement isn't that important. It's just so that you have an idea this is where the nail is going to be, and you can refine, go back in and refine things and make it look exactly how you want it to be. Okay, now before I get into the back fingers, I'm going to go into the palm here because the back fingers are behind it, so I want to make sure I block that in first, all that meaty part. Now, in the reference, we've got this part, which is where you're kind of like lifeline. I think that's where your lifeline starts. Your lifeline starts kind of here. So that's that area, the first knuckle area, okay? And then we go into the kind of meaty, fleshy part of the palm, your thumb web, if you will. And accentuating that and accentuating like the wrinkles in that is all stylistic choice. So I would definitely accentuate and make the first knuckle pad. So we're gonna add a slight curve again. Your fingers aren't rigid, so a lot of these connection points are gonna have soft curves, make it look nicer. And then round out that first pad. So the lifeline would be about here. Coming in, this is a nice, if you feel it, like it's a nice round ball. That's all your knuckle joint there. So I would accentuate that because that is real to life and real to how hands are. And accentuating the web at this point is all how you want to do it. If you want to do it exactly like the reference, you can add in the waves and the flesh and the wrinkles. Since my style is more illustrative, I guess, in a sense, I tend to skip going into too much detail and I put in like just curved down from the ball joint and make another soft, but a larger soft curve, that goes into the thumb to represent the webbing. And then when you go into the thumb, if you want to make it go down further in, things like that, you can kind of determine how you want that to look. But that's kind of how I would start it at this point. I don't like doing, I guess for me, I just don't like doing webby fingers like that. This is kind of what it would turn out to be if I did. Give you a quick sketch. That's right. Okay. Oh, that thumb's off. Okay, but ignore this terrible thumb right here. But you can see, you know, that's kind of what it would look like in a quick, you know, sketch idea if you know, you did kind of like the webbing in there. And I just, again, if you're going for a more realistic hand, you want to add all that in, but if you're just drawing illustrative style, I don't think it's necessary. So now I'm going to go to the thumb, because obviously the remaining fingers behind the thumb as well, so I want to get that blocked in and refined the way I want. So main thing with the thumb, generally I find it's a lot easier if you have the curved side and a flat side or flatter side. It just depends on the angle of the thumb that you're looking at. Even though this reference, there's the bigger curve versus the slightly smaller curve, I sometimes tend to ignore it, a slightly smaller curve, just because it illusionary in the mind makes it look a little easier. So here's the thumb with a giant curve on the inside, and I will come down just a little bit into that, kind of like that, and then I will determine at the very end if I still like that or not, because I might change my mind. And then coming down more flat and then into the thumb joint / bottom of the palm. You want to make sure you give this a big, nice, big curve, because this is a main component of the hand. No one will believe that it's a hand if this is, you know, coming from the thumb. If this is going like, well, I mean, you could do it like that. That'd be a very awkward hand, but you know, that's going to be less believable. Or if you're just like, whoop, and then like it's really short or something like that. Like, anyway, that's less believable. You want to make sure you give it a nice round base, something that, you know, when you see it and you're drawing it, you want to believe that, yeah, that's something I could lay that joint on something and put pressure on it, and it'll support me or support the character, because that's what that part of that hand does. You know, you lean on it, it gives support, it gives cushion, and putting a nice curve in it like that in the joint, it just adds to the believability of the hand. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to land the nail. In this case, we're seeing it at almost a full view, maybe more like a 3/4, just slightly. So there's going to be a little curve here, a little curve there, since we're kind of seeing it from both sides, and then curve, and then curve. So it's like a rectangle that's bulging out of the sides just a little bit. So we'll block that in. My curves, my little flatter curve, just slight curve, because it's the cuticle, the nail bed. It's not, don't over accentuate it, because it won't look realistic, like it's coming out of the thumb. Okay, and then again, if you're doing square tips, just put a square tip on it. If you were doing, you know, pointy, crazy nail tips, put that kind of tip on it. All right, so we're just gonna do the square now. Keep it consistent. All right. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm not upset about it at all yet. All right, so then I'm just gonna finish up this wrist down here, since we're almost done. Again, curve back out. I know we were going this direction with the thumb joint, but we're gonna curve back the other way, and then even out into a straight line for the rest of the wrist. Okay. If you stylistically want to do rigid shapes, that's something you can always do. But if you're going for a more natural style or more realistic, or just more believable hand, you definitely want to get your nice soft curves in there. Okay, now, almost there, almost there. Okay, so now we're on to the ring finger. Turn back here, and most of this is going to be the same. So we're gonna put in that first knuckle with a soft joint, first segment, and soft joint, and then follow that skeleton down, and then I'm gonna go ahead and follow through with the tip. Okay. Ignoring the nail. The nail can always come in at the end, don't worry. Okay, and then on the tip. And then putting in some padding with those arcs. Okay, let me see if I think it's thick enough, because that's the other thing you want to do. You also want to make sure that your fingers, am I drawing with I think I'm drawing with a thicker brush. You also want to make sure that your fingers are a consistency that they appear the same thickness. You know, you can't have your middle finger, you can't have your middle finger be all like blah, and then your pointy finger be like hello, because that's not a hand. Hands don't do that unless you slammed it in a car door and now it's swollen. So as you're going through and refining, you do want to make sure that your fingers are believable. Right now, I do feel like my ring finger's a little thin. So I'm going to make it thicker by the palm just a little bit. And then follow it in. Let me get rid of my sketch line so I can kind of see what's going on. And that's not bad. Okay, so the more curve that you add in each segment, the meatier your fingers are going to look like they have some good flesh on them. You don't have to add that. You can make them more straight. It's up to you, but since I'm kind of doing my style mixed with a semi-realistic reference style, this is how I would do it. Okay, and that's done. All right, looking good. And now it's time to put that nail back in. The nail. Okay, so I'm going to look back at my reference. All right, one thing we want to make sure is that this is like a triangle here with a curve on it. Oh, sorry guys. Put my hand all up in that camera. So, because it's a triangle, because of the angle, because it's kind of coming off the tip of the nail, the sketch again that I did was a little off. That's fine. We're going to make it come out at an angle more like that. All right, let's see if that works. And then get that curve in there for the tip. Actually, I like the angle, but I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. I don't want the nail to be that huge. I want my nail to be softer. Okay. All right, and I think that looks. I like that. That looks decent. All right, we're down to the last finger. Hooray! Okay. Okay, so we're down to the pinky, and let me go back. All right. Oh, too far. I did the wrong one. Okay, I just wanted to make the note that this segment and this segment for the ring finger and the pinky finger are right next to each other. There's a very small gap that we see, but for the most part, the pinky's going behind that. because of that, when I refine this, I really am going to make sure that it's just coming from that second segment out from behind the ring finger that I drew. And then blocking in the flesh, the soft curves. And then I'm going to come back in. I'm going to put in just a slight joint, just a little hill, slightest little bump. Like that. And then let's take a look. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let me make it a little thinner. I like it, but I think it might just be a little too thick in comparison with the other fingers. Down just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, and then to the pinky nail. The pinky nail, it's just the nail that we see. There ain't anything else going on. If you want to give yourself, you know, if you want to come in and kind of sketch where the tip might be, you definitely can do that to help you out. Again, it's going to be similar to the ring finger with that triangle of the nail showing, and then the round tip. It's a little hard because, like I said, all of this is hidden behind the thumb, but you can do it. Okay, and that, my friends, let me erase all this junk, but not my junk. Almost. Okay, so that, there you have it. That is how you draw this hand pose. So again, wasn't going for super realistic, wasn't going for extremely like accurate to the reference, but I was making sure that I kept the main components of the reference so that I can incorporate it into my style, so I can break it down into shapes and make the hand pose. So I hope you do along with me. I hope that this helped you. I hope that this gave you some insight in how to tackle this type of pose in this challenge. And yeah, let me know if you liked it. I actually had a great time refining this hand and breaking it down for you guys. So yeah, I'm gonna do some more of these for you, and just take a look, check back, and I'll see you guys next time for more tutorials.
Thanks for watching Animation Girl. Check out these fun videos and don't forget to subscribe.